you put so much effort into one thing. It's like you're trying to look at it from this angle. You're editing it this way. You're getting this prop. You're doing this. And it's like, while it's very authentic creatively, it's not. I felt the need to put this out. People should like it.
Who is Ryan Magin?
I'm a content creator, short form content agency owner. I've gotten 100 million views on every platform, short form. I created the subtitles that ruined the internet. Some may call them Hermosi Real.
So like your dad was a video guy for National Geographic.
My dad actually created what went on to become GoPro. Not GoPro, like he didn't get paid by GoPro, but he was putting little tiny, like, pen-sized cameras on wings of planes and inside cars when GoPros weren't a thing yet.
How do you make a 40, 50-year-old white male billionaire cool?
You have to treat the internet like FaceTime.
What about you? Like, where did it come from that you knew where trends were? Like, how did you spot trends? God, welcome to the show. Finally, my cool friend. This is everyone needs a cool friend.
Should I wear the glasses to be cool?
You should.
I like it.
At least for a certain period of time.
Okay, I'll take them off when things get serious.
All right, so for those that don't know, Ryan Magin, who is Ryan Magin?
Well, I'm a content creator. I'm a short form agency owner, short form content agency owner. I've gotten 100 million views on every platform, short form. I created the subtitles that ruined the internet.
Yes, you did.
Some may call them the Hermosi Real.
Ah, they do.
I used to be a professional BMX racer. I also taught guys how to dress better to get laid on YouTube. Got a lot of views doing that. Had a couple successful digital products, 7 outfits to make her wanna F you, 51 handsome guy secrets, clothes that make her come to you. I also had a successful affiliate marketing business where I was basically a dirtbag of the internet for a while. But other than that, now I help cool people go viral.
I think it's really interesting because I've known you for a long time. So I've been able to see it. I was telling the story earlier about, so Ryan being a professional BMX rider, we were at an event, West Palm Beach, right?
West Palm Beach.
It was years ago. And I was 265, 270.
300?
Sloppy. Not pretty, sloppy. And Ryan's on his bike and chilling, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. I went down to tie my shoe, and I came up, blood pressure just boiling. I was dying, I'm beet red. And you looked at me and go, you know more about fitness and health than anybody I know. And look at you. And I was like, remember, like the next time I saw you, I was like 225 put together. I'm like, all right, gotta fix it. We gotta fix this. It was a lot of fun. And you've introduced me to some really good people. I think it was one of my funny moments that I tell people as far as like story of like the internet and marketing, everything else is, I remember one of your friends needed help with their gym, and I had a successful gym at the time and had a bunch of equipment. I worked with Nike and everything else. And you're like, cool. I was like, all right, cool. I'll drive up. So I drove up a bunch of equipment.
Yeah. Spark training.
All the Spark Nike stuff. I drove it all up, and dropped in the gym. And I remember like talking to this person, and great guy, smart, but like super introverted, quiet, but like straight up genius, but just unknown online didn't exist. Right?
This is before online, really.
And, got his all gym set up, everything else. You guys were having a good time. Long story short, he was like, hey, like, how do you connect with people? Like, you're so like, you just like talk to people and everything else. And I'm like, yeah, like Ryan, like, does this guy like not... Like, is it like uncomfortable for him? Because you're super extroverted. I'm pretty extroverted. We're good at that whole social thing, and this person did it. Ended up becoming good friends. Long story short, he calls me one day and he's like, hey, like, I'm going to do this thing called YouTube. And I'm like, nah, that's stupid. I'll never forget it. That is stupid. And that is one of our good friends, one of your best friends.
Yep. Elliot Holt.
Yo, Elliot.
And
I'll never forget, like, Elliot, like, he interviewed me for his, strongman for football product, and I'm in that, which is pretty cool. And it was a great interview. Learned a lot actually in the process. Elliot, people don't realize how smart Elliot is.
Oh yeah, he's a genius.
And good person, great guy. But I find it fascinating because online, Yo Elliot came out and he started talking about all this crazy stuff and big trends, everything else. In person, like, probably one of the most energetically sound individuals. Like, he's very comfortable in his own skin. He knows who he is as a man. He's really good as a practitioner and what he does. But his personality and his, like, over the years, his online is just kind of ebbed and flowed with like what he thinks that he needs to show up to the market. He is this personality. How did you, and I know that you weren't like the person that created that, but I'm curious, and I'm talking about someone else right now.
Yeah.
This is about you. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because most people don't know that, like, before people were famous, there's something that you're a part of all these things that are successful, and nobody gives you credit for a lot of this stuff. And the reason why I say that is because there's a lot of things. I know we were talking about the reels and the edits and stuff. I've been able to see behind the scenes for 15, almost 20 years now, behind your life story. Pioneers don't get paid, but you're always the trendsetter. And there's everyone else that copies and jumps on the wave and then catches that wave and becomes very successful off of the back of all of your work. And this is not what I'm not saying that about Elliot at all. I'm just saying I watched that happen and I was wrong by the internet. And you still to this day have told me, dude, you need to jump on YouTube. And I never listened. That was 2005.
Yeah, 2005, 2005, 6.
2005, 6. Okay, so I'm bad with timelines. I always forget that. But that's about when that was?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
A long time ago.
It was really long, and it was crazy to me. So the reason why I'm saying this, you've been telling me to do this for almost 20 years, and I still haven't listened. And now I'm like, God, I wish I would have listened. But more importantly, I realized I have to do it now. So here we are now. I'm finally listening to you. I didn't listen to you. I didn't listen to Elliot, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna listen. So I appreciate it. But what about you has always been what about you? Where did it come from that you knew where trends were? How did you spot trends? Where did that come from?
Well, even back with becoming friends with Elliot, Elliot didn't want to be my friends.
I could see why. Knowing you back in the day,
Yeah.
And this is before you were on the internet.
Yeah.
Elliot, you weren't necessarily Elliot, by the way, holistic, all about eating clean, very, very smart, pull a check type of guy, energy type of guy. Literally could show up and crush my talk after a half a bottle of
Elliot didn't. Me and Elliot, I had just quit my job, or I had just become a professional BMX racer. I took the risk, and I was almost ready to Lowe. I was working at Lowe's Home Improvement at the time, and my parents kind of thought I was a little crazy. My mom really didn't support the quitting of Lowe's.
Sure.
She wanted me to be creative and be me. But when it came to losing I had already worked at Lowe's, for context, for almost 10 years before.
No way.
Yeah, 8 years I worked at Lowe's. I started Lowe's when I was 18. And I worked all the way up to where I was salaried. I was doing pretty well at Lowe's. I look back, I was like,
you were a man.
I was $65,000, $70,000 a year. I was selling doors and windows, and it was commission based. So I learned a lot of my sales skills and my extrovertness. I think a lot of it came from Lowe's. And I got the opportunity to turn pro. I took it. I went to Lowe's, and they were basically I was asking for more weekends off, and I wanted to really pursue, because BMX was about to be announced to be an Olympic sport. And I was I kind of want to try, at least I want to give this a go. If I have even the remote chance of this ever happening, I would regret it. And Lowe's was very honest with me, and they're like, hey, Ryan, this is retail. We can't do that. And I quit. And no backup plan, just left. I had $14,000 in 401k, which arguably might be worth a lot of money today if I kept it in there.
And I did not know that about you.
Cash, it was actually $16,000, but they taxed me $2,000 or $3,000. I forget to take the money out in one lump sum. So I took that $12,000 or $13,000. I had that in my bank account. And it was right after that I started researching online forums, and it was Zach Evanesh, homie. Zach, what's up? You see this? I was in his $9.99 a month forum, Underground Strength Coach, and out of nowhere, just a guy made a post that was and I was trying to absorb anything marketing I could, because I was well, I'm going to run out of money. So I need to probably coach BMXers on the side to make do here, because I arguably was not the most amazing professional BMX racer. I was just too good to be amateur.
Yeah.
And that's a weird place. We can talk about that, what athletes fall into. But I didn't know that yet. That came with a lot of clarity later. At the time, I thought I was invincible. I'm going to go to the Olympics and nobody's going to stop me. But I didn't know I didn't make money in the process. So I was training a few BMXers on the side, and I was like, oh, how do I market myself to do this with little money and underground strength training, which is becoming a thing. And Zach was the pioneer of that. And one guy just posts in, what do you think of my marketing flyer? It was one of the posts in the marketing forum on, Zach's forum. And it was from a guy named Elliot Hulse. And
no way.
It was a flyer. He's like, this is my flyer. I'm going to start doing a Saturday strength camp, Saturday morning boot camp. First off, I was like, fuck, 8 a.m. on a Saturday. It's going to be rough for me. I like to go out on Friday nights. But I said, screw it. I'm like, who is this guy? This looks cool. And then I showed up and I paid my $25 or whatever. and I did the workout and I had a lot of fun. And you just get a vibe from somebody. And I was like, this guy, you know, my dad was kind of traveling at the time, and like it was ironic that Elliot went on to be a lot of guys' dads based through the internet. He was a lot of mentor.
I can see that, yeah.
You know, and no discredit to my dad, it wasn't like he was absent, but he was traveling a lot, and I was just like, wow, this guy seems to know a thing or two, and he's a positive influence on my life. So I was like,
Very much so. I can see.
yeah, so I want to be his friend.
Sure.
Meantime, I don't think he liked me. You know, he took my $25 and put me through a workout. It was great. And then it was like first Saturday, I was like, yo, you want to go get, there was a smoothie shop and a smoothie/shop. Hey man, can I buy you a smoothie? And he's like, no, I got to get back to my family. And I was like, okay, cool, man. I'll see you next week. And then I just kind of kept thinking, we were now chatting on the forum a little bit.
Sure.
And then the next Saturday came and like tried the same thing. He said no. I was like, fuck, okay, this guy's being stubborn, playing hard to get. You know, I was like, man, I really like this.
This is a pickup artist over here. He can't actually pull one.
Yeah, I was like,
embarrassing.
I was like, this guy just doesn't like me. So then I was like, well, how do I impress Elliot? We had an underground strength, and I was starting to acquire my own strength equipment at my house. And the one thing I did buy, because I was doing pretty well at Lowe's, making like 60 grand a year, I lived at home with my parents. So I turned half the garage into a gym. So, and I had a Ford F-150 Lightning at the time. So I had a truck, and I was like, well, let me bring some equipment for him to use, maybe to expand the horizon. And I had a tractor tire. It was a 500-pound tractor tire that I had found, and I drug back to my house. I had a piece of ply. I got a ramp. And every Saturday, I rolled it down my driveway into the back of my truck. I actually dented the top of my truck because I couldn't stop because I was by myself. Put it in the back of the truck, and I drove it out. I was like, Ellie, you want to use a tire this week? It's right here. And he was like, yeah, man, that's cool. Thank you. Rolled it out, did a whole workout with the tire. Everyone loved it.
It's his famous picture with his bike.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I
have that same picture, except I didn't have
you're just out of veins. Yeah, Jack is Ellie.
Pretty disappointed.
But, and then finally it was like after that, I was like, can I buy you a smoothie? He said yes. We went and got a smoothie. And then it was like, I'd love to buy you lunch. Like, and this is like 6 months later. I was like, can I buy you lunch? So I just started like worked on that, you know, cultivated that relationship. And then finally he said yes to lunch. And the irony was, I bought him lunch at a place downtown. It was like $60 for the two of us to eat lunch.
It's a lot of money back then.
Yeah. And I didn't tell him at the time, but my money was starting to run out. And that $60, I put it on a credit card. And I never paid that credit card again. That was probably the last time I had good credit, but arguably, that was the best $60 mistake I ever made. But I never told him that. Like, I mean, he knows now, but like, bought lunch, and then we just kind of like, whenever he would go do something, he just kind of started inviting me, and it was like, hey, I'm gonna go to Hooters with a friend of mine, or I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go downtown. Do you want to? And I was a single guy at the time. I was like, fuck yeah! So I met him every time, and then we became friends, and then. I don't think we really got close till he was like, at that lunch, he's like, I want to open my own facility. I was like, I have all this equipment and my mom really wants me to get the fuck out of the garage. I said, so if I can store it there, I'll let you have it. And he said, yeah. And a lot of the first strength camp equipment, a good bit of the original equipment was
power rack, boxes.
Well, we bought a lot of it. Like, so another thing that I did to further, my friendship with Elliot Hulse was I also took a part-time job at Played Against Sports because my cousin was the manager at one, and they would give me like super flexible hours, and it was commission based because I would sell workout equipment. So I, didn't make that much money, but it was like more for the flexible hours because of my bike racing. And so I went to work there, but what I did get was a 40% discount off all merchandise and things that you bought. So when Elliot came in and he had like $5,000, or I think it might've been 10, I don't know. He had like his initial investment for the gym, which was the cable machine, the power rack, like a bunch of the big purchases. I bought them through Play It Again with his credit card and my 40% discount.
Nice.
And we've been
good friends.
We've been friends ever since.
And I think it's really cool to see like Elliot's journey.
Yeah, and I started.
It really is.
Yeah, I started taking video serious because I saw him doing it, and at this point, I was like, if Elliot did it, it's probably smarter than what I can do, so I'm just going to copy him. So I made a BMX DVD. I started making videos about BMX. Only thing Elliot did different was he posted on YouTube, and I listened to Gary Vee. Fucking asshole. And I started posting my video.
Now? Well, man, God,
I love
that.
I do love Gary, but I listened to him, and I started putting my videos on Vidler. Because you could get paid. Well, come to find out, he was an investor in Vidler, and then like a year later, Vidler just died, and all my content went with it.
Well, you have to understand, like nobody knew YouTube was going to be YouTube, and
I took a risk on that because there was a little bit of money coming from the videos, but not enough to arguably. In hindsight, if I'd have stuck to YouTube, I probably would have made more. But if I didn't lose all my content there while not really succeeding as a pro BMX racer, I don't know if I would have made the switch to the next chapter, which was the SEO stuff.
Yeah.
If that didn't happen. And arguably, if I would have stayed on YouTube, I don't know. I might have just been a BMX coach on YouTube and my path would have been completely different. And
Yeah.
I like to think I made the right decision.
Well, I don't think, number one, there's not a lot of money in that sport at the time and where that
There's no alcohol
still out there. Is that how it is?
Supercross crushes. You know why? You can drink beer at the events.
Ah.
BMXers is a non-alcohol sport.
So again, perfect example of why you're my cool friend is like not just the alcoholic part of it, but the cool part of understanding like what works within society. People don't know this about you. Your dad, like you have a very good eye on the camera, like what looks good, what doesn't look good, and how to actually make it work. You're a quick editor. You don't need to use like super Premiere software and stuff like that. But like your dad was a video guy for National Geographic. Like I live in Dulles. One of my favorite things to do with Thomas is we go to the Air and Space Museum where everything is, and like your dad's got videos there that he did.
Yeah, my dad, I by osmosis, I was around cameras very late. My dad actually created what went on to become GoPro. Not GoPro, like he didn't get paid by GoPro, but he was putting little tiny like pen-sized cameras on wings of planes and inside cars when GoPros weren't a thing yet. They came out and they actually put my dad, because my dad was just a videographer. He would put the cameras in unique places and he was able to, get unique angle. He's got
credit inside the actual museum.
Yeah, he's got an Emmy. Like he's won a lot of really cool stuff. And then, but he took a liking to air shows and he kind of went down that path. And then GoPro came out and my dad, being kind of a pioneer, realized his job was on the line because these really tiny GoPro cameras were about to make his camera obsolete. So he taught himself how to edit.
Got it.
And then he bought a bunch of GoPros, learned how to use the GoPros, and then started making edits. And I never actually took editing lessons from my dad, but I watched so many of his videos after he completed them. He'd always make me watch them. Some of them, arguably, I was bored. But I just didn't have the passion for planes quite like my dad. And yeah, by osmosis, I started learning storytelling whenever it came to like cameras, I was like, Dad, what computer do I buy? And he had one. Or what do I do here? And he had one. So it was just like kind of, and I watched him also work ethic wise, which I don't know is the healthiest thing, because my dad would edit from like 11. Like I'd go to get Starbucks coffee with my dad, usually before I was going out for the night with my friends, but I go get a coffee with him at like 9 or 10 p.m. We go to Starbucks before they close and we both get a coffee together and we'd hang out. And then he would edit. And then when I started doing like,
you would stumble in and he would still be editing.
Yeah, some nights. And I was like, well, these things take a while to make. Cool. And then I just saw him do that for so long. And then it was like, get the footage and then edit it. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So then when it came to my BMX stuff, I started filming my own stuff.
Yeah.
My mom and dad bought me my first MacBook that had, window, or what is it? Not Windows Movie Maker, that was on PC, but
iMovie.
Had iMovie, so I learned I taught myself technically how to edit, but I mean I was influenced by his editing.
I think my first video on an iMac, when I got it, was my Ryan Goss video of him like lifting and crazy, and I was so proud of it. It's kind of cool. But I think it's fascinating because people don't realize like where things come from. And again, having that history with your dad, being around it all the time. And then people understand like why you're so good with a camera and you just kind of figure things out. It's something that you're really good at. You look at BMX, socially, you're very good at just kind of always being in the right place at the right time, being somebody's friend. I met you at the Arnold Classic. You tell this great story about you sleeping on the floor or in the bathroom.
The bathroom. Because I watched that Will Smith movie. And I was like, oh yeah. And that Arnold Hall had like 100 bathrooms.
They were clean too.
And they were clean. Like I just went to the farthest one. I locked the door and I slept for 4 hours. But I did party until like 3 a.m. Stumble back in, sleep there. And then I woke up to be there another 8 days.
I was competing and we were a vendor at the event, a sponsor vendor and kind of presenting and doing stuff. That was back then, which is kind of cool. And I remember because Stephen Cotter the night before. Yeah. Zach Evanesh. Okay. And then it was him and Randy Couture. They were doing like a little seminar type of thing that we were there before. I was competing. And then we all go to lunch. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, what it was like a
It was like a Mongolian
barbecue, like a little hibachi, but like all set up pretty nice, which is kind of cool. God bless Steve.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but we go and do that. The next night, I believe, UFC fight.
Yep.
Randy Couture knocks out Tim Sylvia, wins the title. The next day, I am treating Tim, right? So I went from Randy's camp. The next day, I'm treating Tim. I think I was having breakfast with like, I think it was Rich Franklin.
Yeah.
At the time. And then connected with Tim, did all of his treatment, did his recovery, which is a really cool story. And then because of kind of where we were, and that whole treatment, you kind of snuck your way in. I think I had a pass for you / didn't / told you I did.
Yeah, you're like, they're like,
there's an after party.
Well, you came up to me because I was working out, and I was going back from the military booth to do pull-ups and the arm booth.
The booth next to me was like
dumb arrow curl thing, but I was like, yo, if I do like 5 sets of 10 throughout the day, I go do 5 sets of 10 pull-ups.
Trying to get
somebody else. The animal cage had a bench press. I was like, I can get a full workout in just roaming around the Arnold Classic.
Yeah, food and workout for free.
Yep. And then I met you, and we just kind of hit it off. And then I was like, oh, I don't have a place to stay. You found me a place to stay.
The next night.
Yeah. And then you're like, hey, I'm going to this Elite FTS party. And Elite FTS was like the pinnacle of all things strength.
It was the fish.
And I was obsessed with them because of like the training world. And I was using a lot of the Franco Elite FTS philosophies to train for BMX. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I got this pass. And then we all go together, but I got denied. I forget how I got denied, but then
I was already in. I was like, hey, just go around the back.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things too. Like I tell people all the time in sports and in any environment, this is like a really good rule. If you act like you belong, you'll get treated like you belong. You act like a fan, you'll get treated like a fan. Yeah. One of the skills that you have outside of just being, the cool friend is how to act in certain environments. And I could take you, even if you're in, a freaking tank top, into any environment. Mm-hmm. And you just kind of found your way. So we get there. It was kind of fun. It was a good experience. So you like sneak this into this party. You get in there.
Yeah. And I had to go through a side door when somebody came out. I just like, it was like, because they had like a patio area. I think I saw the door, and I was like, if somebody comes out, I can hop the little fence thing and I can get right in. And then
6'3", 250, real inconspicuous.
Yeah. And that's what I did. But I got in, and you introduced me to all the elite.
Yeah, I introduced you to Dave and all of this other stuff. And I think it's funny too, because like James Smith, the thinker, was there that we were, because I had done some work with him in the past before, like people knew kind of his background and everything else, which is kind of cool. And he was doing some research for a device that I use and still use to this day, a Russian technology, which is pretty incredible. And what's fascinating is like you get into this environment that I'm in, and then you come out of that environment and you end up being the first sponsored BMX rider by Elite FTS. You get a jersey by them, the whole thing. You take your DVD, BMX Strong, I believe.
BMX Strong.
And then it's on the actual website.
Yep.
It's running through there. I think it's fascinating how like you're able to like, number one, get into certain environments, and then people just tend to like you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, where did the skill come from of like being the cool friend? Like, where did that come from?
When I was in high school, like I was the bike kid. And the bike kids don't like extreme sports kid. I think it's cooler now, but back then,
douchebags.
Yeah, back then you were just
weird.
Yeah, weird. A loner. We wore the baggy pants. We wore like, piercings. Like I didn't have any of that, but that was like the subculture. And it was like I just discovered early on that you got to find key people of influence, and if you become friends with them, then they usually introduce you to other people. And as long as you're not awkward in social settings, which I wasn't, I just ended up meeting all these different groups. And, I became friends with I was equal as friends with the jocks, the people that played football and basketball in high school. I was friends with the kids that played hacky sack. I was friends with the extreme sports kids. I did play hacky sack. Yeah. And then also I became friends with the cheerleaders, because if you become friends with the cheerleaders, you get the whole football team. And then I was only friends with cheerleader because I sat next to one in one of my classes. I think I brought her a donut or something one day, and we were friends ever since.
Brought a cheerleader.
I went on homecoming with the head cheerleader. So I was like, at that point I was like, oh, I got some skills,
I'm trying to think. Fun fact, I don't think I've ever dated a cheerleader. They've all been like my good friends, but I don't think I've ever dated. I got to check.
and that's just, but that started even coming out of high school. I just always kind of wanted to be around where the party was or who knew everybody. And I just found these key people. And you were a key person when I didn't realize at the time, because I generally just talked to everybody,
Yeah.
and then, but I saw like you were competing. So that puts you at the Arnold at a higher level because you were an athlete. And then I just saw you.
By the way, let's fucking go.
But then you just knew everybody. So I was like, yo, I scored.
I think it was interesting because back then I think I knew more people than I do now. My circle's much smaller today. I think my circle's expanded and then contracted, both from a strategic alignment standpoint, but also from like a values and belief standpoint. I've slowly closed my circle down over the years. But I remember, oh my God, that's kind of scary that I think about it. But I was like with Jesse Morunde for Metrics at the time. And like he was in a booth there. He won the World's Strongest Man, passed away like a couple months right after there, which was horrible training. And it's just kind of crazy to think about all of the people over the years. I remember that's where I first met Bill Kazmaier. Now Bill's a good friend of mine, mainly because of the work with like Dr. Ken Kanakin in Swiss. And it's kind of interesting to see like it all come together. But I mean, at that event, Dave Tate was there. I was with Jim Wendler. And this is before Jim. Oh, this is a great story. No, bullshit. The reason why I know that didn't happen is because he didn't do that yet. Because he didn't write that until after you were sponsored. And the first name of the book was Lifting 3 Days a Week. And I only know that, I believe this is because I was like, how are you in on this? But you and me were in the same email thread on Lifting 3 Days a Week with that was a Word document.
I remember.
I still have it in my inbox, which is still crazy.
I think I saw it too. I have the same email. So.
And that is BMX.
BMX Strong.
That's right.
You don't know what provider it's on though.
About it at AOL.
No. Verizon.
That's funny. But, all of these people before, like they were obviously super important to us, but like it wasn't well known yet. Like, we didn't know who was going to pop off and where it was. And if you go back and you think about like all of these people and where they were, like in that same day, I mean, I remember it was like, Louis Simmons and everybody else. And it was kind of crazy to think about it. And you were always the cool guy. You always had, like we could bring you in any environment.
Yeah.
And it was just something that you have just a knack for. But I find it to be fascinating personally that you have been a bit of a pioneer and you haven't got the recognition that I think that you deserve.
Yeah. Even on the BMX side, like everyone in BMX disliked me because I was giving BMX training advice away for free on Vidler. And the parents were sharing my videos via email. And I would get sponsorships for people because the companies wanted access to the parents, not the kids, because the parents were the credit card holders. And when I would go to bike races, I had a fan base of all the parents. Most of the kids didn't care for me because the other pros didn't like me, because all the pros also had training businesses on the side. A lot of them, by making the DVD and giving training advice, it
eliminated basically the
barrier for what eventually became like BMX coaching on the internet, which is a thing now. There's a few guys, and I'll never forget, I went to a race in Canada, and I basically only went because like I could get myself there. It wasn't like, they invited it to everybody. And it was one of the scariest tracks I've ever ridden. But like I was there, and I only like the top people went because their sponsors brought them out, because it was like a Red Bull race. It was like, it was in Canada. Jay Myron put it on. It was a flat pedal only race because at the time we were all clipping in, and clipping in was new, and they wanted to keep the grassroots of BMX. And I was fairly decent on flat pedals because I grew up racing on flat pedals, and clips were like a new technology at the time. But everybody there was like way better than me. But I knew if I got there and I just made it around the track and competed, it would be a cool experience. And I did. And then my other friend, Brian Henkel, he was the announcer. So he had it in, and then I came with him. I stayed with his friend, like another one of our mutual friends. His name was Randall Neve. We stayed at his parents' house because he lived in Canada. So, and then we went to Canada, and I'll never forget, I was at like the Portalets, and a couple of the pros were like, how's that DVD selling? And they were definitely doing it in a way to like make fun of me. And I was like, paid for my way here. I say, paid for my way here.
I mean,
but in hindsight, reverse, one of the guys he wasn't one of the direct ones, but I could tell we had friction. He then immediately, he was the next adopter, and he is one of the Olympic training coaches for BMXers.
No.
A lot of his training is online.
Yeah, I think what's fascinating, you want to get to the point where people that are naysayers become the haters, and then the haters become the reason why that you make it, because they pay for you.
Yeah.
And if you could get those haters to become fans and those fans to become clients, then you win. And you've been able to kind of do that through your journey and kind of fast forward to where you are today, you know, whether it be the internet trends and seeing things. You've spoken at so many of my events over the year. Like Ryan's everyone's favorite. It's annoying.
Because we're tactical.
You're very practical. I will say that.
Practical and tactic.
Absolutely. Like, one of the things about the way that you work is like, you believe that planning is a waste of time.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with the fact that you're just very good casually with people. But in the actual business of editing and the work that you do, you feel like the planning's a waste. Why do you think planning's a waste?
Well, I relate a lot to being like kind of being a BMXer, you spend a lot of time, and it's like any extreme sport. You're alone. You're looking at a jump and you're going, can I make it or not? And it's like, you know, we'll say 8 out of 10 times you make it.
Sure.
Statistically, one time you're probably going to fall, be fine. The other time you might get hurt. Like, it's numbers. But you spend a lot of time just like by yourself doing shit, but there's no planning. Like when you see a jump, it's a point A to point B, and you just have to, you know, huck it and see if you make it. And, you know, that's where like kind of skill set and like instincts take over, and you either pedal fast, you either jump too far or you come up short, and it hurts, you know? So, and jumping too far also hurts too. But like, you know, I grew up in like, we would build jumps in the back of the woods until like fucking the sunlight would go down and we'd ride home. And like, I've been hurt in the back of the woods by myself and have to get myself home. Like I learned I hate relying on people to do things. And like, even when it comes to video, like I hate relying on friction, like doing podcasts. Like I'm not a huge fan of podcasts because it requires somebody else to be here. You know, if somebody has to ask me questions here. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, but it's like, you know, or if like I have to do a podcast, I can't do it unless I have somebody to talk to. Well, it's like I hang out here, I can film videos all day long. Why do I need somebody to talk to? I'm just going to talk myself.
Yeah.
And it's like same thing with like video editing. Like I love video editing and I love the storytelling aspect.
Sure.
But if I can eliminate editors, then I can get videos out faster because I'm not relying on them to fucking send me my shit back.
Got it.
You know, and that's kind of like when it comes to having a plan, like, and the internet we're in a weird place where like production quality isn't really weighed heavily. It's more about like, was it a good story? Did something happen that was like memorable? Did you just capture something good? And we try to facilitate the capturing of good in a way that there's an ability to get more out faster, because again, we live in a world right now that the algorithm decides what's good and isn't good. Yeah. So I could have all these, you know, it's usually the shit that I spend the most time working on that does the worst.
Interesting.
You know,
why do you think that is?
You know, because in a way it's kind of inauthentic. Like you put so much effort into one thing. It's like you're trying to look at it from this angle. You're editing it this way. You're getting this prop. You're doing this. And it's like, while it's very authentic creatively, it's not, because it's like, I needed this. I felt the need to put this out. People should like it.
I think it's interesting because, like, for me, my thought process is the more I prepare, the better I show up. And the more that I focus on mastery and the details, and then the more I focus on actually like the finer, you know, nuances that separate me from everyone else is the thing that makes me good in this other world. But in the creative space online, that's not the case.
Yeah. I mean, that's not saying that that's not of huge value. Like, yes, you know, but if you think about it, similar, my reference of here's a jump, I got to get from point A to point B. If I called you and you're taking a shit and you do it every morning at 7:45 a.m.
This guy, one of his most viral videos is my poop schedule, because he's trying to, but by the way, this is actually a really good insight of like catching people at the right times because you have my attention. But I think what's fascinating and frustrating at the same time is the fact that that is something annoying to me.
Yeah. And
it's like, I don't want to be known for that piece of content. I actually find it hilarious. So on the other aspect, I think it's funny.
Yeah.
But, and I think there's a level of escapism and entertainment inside of social places. But what's annoying to me is like, with all the great content and value that you offer to the world, right? How to edit, how to look at things, whether it's the right hook, the angles, the lighting. Hey, it's about audio, like really important things that you do, like on the behind the scenes of your business. There's actually a very complex structure to create the simplicity, but yet a video like that goes out to the world.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's the most natural. If you're uncomfortable about something, it usually means it's either the funniest thing that happened or it's the most authentic thing that's happened or said. And it's usually that gets the most views. And it's also the most relatable. Everyone takes a shit.
It does. It's true.
And
I didn't believe women did for years. No, I don't believe this.
Yeah, they do in their own time. I know, but it's the most human thing. And it was just like, wow, there's a human aspect to you that everyone in that room laughed when I said that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Everyone now knows my poop schedule.
Yeah.
And they know how to get in touch with me because number one, you got my attention and I can't go anywhere. It's stuck. And I'm a slow pooper. I mean, all these years of painkillers and everything else have just messed up my digestive, screwing up. So I got 22 minutes to sit here and
it's exactly 22 minutes. I know, I've timed it.
Absolute killer.
But the core
favorite part is like, how do you know that I'm in the bathroom right away? Number one, the speed of me picking up.
So you pick up immediately because you're embarrassed. Either you might not, you might be in a hotel, you might be someone's scrolling on Instagram, sees that name, he picks it up, and then there's the immediate echo.
It's the bathroom echo.
Bathroom echo, no matter what. But I mean, the internet right now is FaceTime. And if I need a piece of advice from you about lifting or like if I happen to be talking to an athlete, I'm like, oh, you got to talk to my friend Cav. He can help you right now, probably increase your 40. And I FaceTime you and I go, hey, Cav, help him get faster than his 40. You will spit something right out.
No, 100%.
Yeah. No script, no preparation. And that is a better video than anything you could prepare for, because that's the true, honest advice. Telling a friend something without bullshit, without fucking barriers and fancy edits. Just, this is how you do it.
It's funny you say that because I remember like first day that I met Luis was actually on the track training Nick and Jason for Tokyo for the Olympics. And I'm training Nick and Jason. And Jason's super quiet, 3-time Olympian, fastest athlete in this country, most successful guy, incredible human being, amazing life story, but doesn't share with the world. Then you had Nick, who was like, I hate social media. I refuse to be online. I'm not doing it. It's dumb. This is crazy. I don't want the world to see me in its massive level of like insecurity. Oh my God. Like, what about like, I have cerebral palsy. I had a stroke in utero. Like, I don't want people to know that I have a hole in my brain and like, I'm a Paralympian and, but I'm going on this journey, but then how do I get paid or what do I do? And I remember like in that training session, even Luis, like first day, Luis is like, dude, like there's an incredible story here. You got to tell it. And we go out and have tacos.
Yeah.
Right. And you just give at lunch an absolute masterclass on how to build your brand. This is what you need to do. Shut up, put it together, do it. And I think what was fascinating is I've been yelling at Nick for like 2 years to do this. Cause at the time, people don't realize this. Nick was the USA Player of the Year for the para soccer team. Nobody knew that. I mean, he was literally the Player of the Year.
Yeah.
But nobody knew it because he was a ghost online. And you kind of had this like, you cracked that shell of insecurity of whatever it is. He had a lot of anxiety around posting. He had a lot of insecurity around posting. Didn't want to do it. You kind of cracked that shell. He then takes your master class. We implement it finally. And Nick's entire brand is, I mean, he's hanging out with Cabby.
Yeah, he's in streamers video.
Oh, he's the man. Like
you're all like fan. He'll with fucking Hugo Boss. Like, yeah.
And it's all because like Nick would have still won his 3 gold medals.
Yep.
But he would have never told that story. He wouldn't have been online, wouldn't have made $1 from it.
Yep.
The difference between him making money from that message purely has to do with the fact that you unlock that mechanism, whether it be their anxiety and insecurity. How do you decrease your client's anxiety of getting on film and insecurities they have about all of the things? Because a lot of your content, a couple of like really popular pieces of content that I watched you create. So I can speak to this because I remember them kind of on the cutting board before they were actually deployed, and what that looked like is here's how I maximize the Chipotle routine. Now I probably know your Chipotle order depending on like where you go, but this was a content piece for somebody else. And it literally, there's hundreds of thousands of views on this one, but there's also millions of views on another video that you created. that was like, here's how you maximize your value of being at Chipotle. That to me is the dumbest thing ever, but it's actually so practical for somebody that's interesting to someone who's worth millions of dollars at the time,
Yeah.
you know? And for them, people to like want to understand that this interest, this story, these are really cool things, but that person had massive levels of insecurity of putting that story out there. Like, I don't want to say this. And you're like, just do it. Well, what happened? How do you increase the anxiety?
There was an ego conversation. I think they didn't want to do it. And I said, look, like, I know you don't know how this is going to make you money. You have to just trust me here. I said, but just imagine if every time somebody sat down in a Chipotle, they thought of you. How much brand exposure is that? How much influence is that?
And how many people in that audience, when you look at like the global market of that group of audience, how many people go to Chipotle?
Yep, all of them.
It's crazy.
Everybody you'd ever want to sell something to help them make money that like the color purple, just like you.
Mm-hmm.
And would think of you when they sit down at Chipotle. And I think we achieved that because that video got like 20 million views.
So like 20 million views, it doesn't really matter when it comes to, are they quality views? Are they important people? At the end of the day, like you're moving somebody from like a C-list environment, right, to like a B-list celebrity space immediately, right? Yeah, you're not getting into like Richard Gere and Jim Carrey and Denzel Washington A-list celebrity environment, but you're moving somebody to a B-list environment immediately from 20 million views. People, do you know how much money people would pay just to have 20 million eyeballs on their stuff? That's incredible.
Meta charges about $1,000 per million, so.
And if you think about like, what does that cost and what is the longevity of that and the relationship and the ability to create, like to humanize somebody is so valuable. You have this ability to make somebody feel comfortable in a very uncomfortable environment, not because of pressure, but you have this ability, and it's incredible, to take somebody's insecurity and their anxieties and just be like, let's just put that online and you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I just kind of tell them, if you don't do it, somebody else will. And I personally would rather it be the person that I'm standing in front of, because there's going to be somebody far less qualified than you that says something and gets the credit, or it could just be you. And it's the most relatable shit that gets the most views. If it's relatable, you reach more people. And then whenever somebody thinks about spending money with you, they think, well, I eat Chipotle. He's just like me. Or I get my tires changed at Jiffy Lube too. Or I get ripped off at the car dealership too. Yeah. And that's really it.
Well, I remember like
I get my dog in like 9 minutes.
9 minutes, we got to get the dog. Oh, we'll wrap it.
Okay.
All right, cool.
And get your shoes on.
Cool. So what your shoes out? One thing that I do want to say, because I think I want to wrap this up, but I also think it's important too. Number one is like, in that same, I don't know, it wasn't the same section, but like another video session, you're in Vegas and you're shooting. And I remember the conversation is like, hey, how do you like, everyone's like, how do you produce so much content? How do you produce so much content? Like, oh, well, like I just have my friend Ryan like shoot the content. And then he basically asked me these questions and answers them. And I'll never forget that moment, because I'm like, I've known you at that point for like 15 years. And I'm watching this stranger that I've also known kind of really build their brand amazingly. And he literally goes, my friend Ryan. Like you're a business owner. Yes, you're the executive. Yes, you're the person that's really making people go viral and making them popular. But you have this ability to work your way into an environment in any place and become somebody's friend. Like I call everybody like, Ryan's my cool friend. Whether it be the fact that like you make somebody like, how do you make a 40, 50-year-old billionaire, white male, cool? Yeah. Grant Cardone, how do you make them cool? You make them cool because you make them relatable and you bring that thing. Grant in person, super humble, very practical, but Grant online, he brings the heat. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you make them, you're their friend. How are you the professional and their friend at the same time?
You just got to ask them shit that they care about. Everyone treats everyone, like you said, everyone treats everyone like they're famous, when in reality, oh, this is my dog. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Hello, this is Ryan.
And since he's so kind, customer service-wise, we're going to wrap this up. And then what we'll do is round 2. Sounds good? All right, I'll see you. Get the fuck out. And we're back.
Part 2.
Jeez. I'm impressed, though. 7 minutes to get the dog? That was best.
I know. Because they charge you like, it's like $5 every minute or something until because they don't want to be there.
They're like, I'm done. I'm checked out.
Yeah.
But it was impressive.
Not bad.
Are you working on that eye right there? Get it. Nice. Oh, he did it. Look at that. All right, cool. So what I was asking you is, and like when I do my introduction is like, hey, Ryan's my cool friend. But I think what's most impressive is like, how do you make a 40, 50-year-old white male billionaire cool? And you do that, in my opinion, it's like you find the thing that humanizes them.
Yes.
You know, like what I want to know is, for everybody that's listening and watching, is how can they actually connect with the audience? Because what you're really good at just in business and in life is being a connector, both socially and the in-person level, and then also digitally. How do you connect an asset to their audience?
I think, again, like I mentioned earlier, like you have to treat the internet like FaceTime. Like you're talking to a camera lens in most cases, when you're creating content, but it's actually people watching it. And I know we get blinded by the millions of views and everything that goes along with that. But the reality is like it's one person watching you at any given time. So like having that mentality, then it's like, who's watching it on the other end? And we have like a concept of like, we call it like For You page marketing or Explore page marketing, depending on what platform you're on. And the algorithms show people content they're generally interested in. And the more things you're interested in like your private time, is generally speaking going to get you more reach than what your business interested in, as far as like, Grant Cardone sells real estate or real estate investments. It's like, yeah, okay, we get it. Like that's boring as fuck.
Yeah.
But Grant Cardone also is interested, I'm assuming, in watches. He's also interested in he likes watches, just like you. So nice shoes. So if Grant Cardone were to make a video about his watches or his interest in watches, you would see that video. Just like I would see that video if I'm interested in watching. Just like a lower tiered person who maybe isn't developed into like a business savant yet, who can't afford a Rolex, might be interested in Rolexes.
Yeah,
I appreciate he's a savant. You're a savant. But the point is everyone has these hobbies and interests that are generally broad scope. That they all do. And then like, everyone puts their shoes on and they tie their shoes and they wear socks sometimes. I don't wear socks, but that's another.
You got to get cool socks, man. Yeah. By the way, best museum
too hot
in America is the Dali Museum in St. Pete.
It's right over here.
Yeah. So Salvador Dali. And what's even cooler, in my opinion, is I got a chance to go to his house in Barcelona, just kind of outskirts of Barcelona. Unbelievable storytelling inside of there. So two of my favorite museums in the world, the Dali Museum here in St. Petersburg, Florida, and the Picasso Museum in Barcelona.
So right there is a perfect example of how to make people human. Oh. If Grant Cardone made a video about a museum that he took Sabrina to, and it just so happened to be the Salvador Dali, is that ever going to make him more money from real estate? Arguably, probably not.
But someone watching that, but that's like, I connect with.
But you might be thinking about taking Thomas to the Salvador Dali sometime.
He's been.
Okay, he's been. So, somebody else out there might be wanting to take their son or daughter to the Salvador Dali, and they happen to see a Grant Cardone video where he talks about him taking Sabrina to Salvador Dali. Now, not only did somebody who might not have ever seen Grant Cardone's content see that video because it's Salvador Dali Museum, they're also going to be like, who is this guy? Let me click to that profile. Oh, wow, this guy knows a thing or two about real estate. And he's kind of flashy, maybe he's a little douchey, but man, he went to the museum with his daughter, so he likes to do things with his kids. I have a kid, so maybe I'm a little more like Grant.
Interesting.
Yeah. Everybody has those qualities. And I think the problem is everyone looks at content as transactional instead of like human. And the irony is if you go to sign up for Instagram, it says connecting friends.
Yeah.
It's not what they do on the platform.
No.
But the reality is that is what it is. It's connecting people.
It's associations.
Yeah.
So I look at the way you do things is you're really good at creating an asset and then connecting it to an audience through an association, like meaning the relatability, because a relatability is something that you do so well. Like we connected through the world of fitness. Then that connection goes through Elite FTS. There's like a through line. You were talking about Zach Evanesh. We're there. Hey, let's go to lunch together. I know Zach. Let's do this. This is kind of cool. Fun fact. You were talking about like the forum earlier. That was all built by Ryan Lee. That's how I connected with Zach. So I met Ryan early on in this kind of like 6-figure trainer days. And it's like really cool to like go back and look at history and see like these through lines with people. And what I see that you do so well is take this social aspect that you do with people in person and the connecting the dots, and you do it digitally.
Yep.
And I think that's super valuable.
And I think just to further, everyone has these connectivity points with people. And the problem is everyone comes in and the act of making niche-based content and content that is more selling type of stuff to convince people to buy, to show how smart you are, that's talking at somebody. You're not really reaching anybody where they're at. You're reaching them like, again, it's a transactional. Like, let me impress you with my knowledge about building a forum. Oh, by the way, I build forums if you want to make one for your company too. Instead of being like, well, let me tell you the story about how Ryan met Elliot through a forum. Because everybody's been on a forum at one point that's over the age of 30. So it's
believe it or not, they're back now, and they're probably one of the biggest drivers in SEO relationships, which is Reddit, which is crazy.
And Reddit, yeah, everyone has searched Reddit for something. Everyone has watched a YouTube video. Everybody has wanted to eat well. Everyone has wanted to work out more. Everyone has wanted to learn how to do something for their kids, and everyone has these commonalities, but it's like the last thing that people think about when it comes to making content, because is it a transactional piece of content if I talk about, my daughter liking Labubu's? No. But it's a real life thing, because any other parents out there have probably heard their kids say, I want a Labubu. So by me making those videos, I am now on the For You page or the of the parent.
And like being around you for 20 years as a friend and seeing kind of the ups and downs of like your life and your growth. Like, number one, you're never afraid of hard work. You're always going to put the time in. Number two, you're willing to do the unscalable thing, which is the relationship management. Like, you really care about people, and you're always like, one thing I can say confidently about you publicly is that you're going to always do right by people. And I don't know how you do it, because I hold grudges. You tend to not just forgive, but you end up you then be like, well, I understand how they view that. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, they're a horrible person. How could you understand how they view that? And they did a wrong thing by you. Why do you think it's okay? And you tend to kind of like get over it, whether you forgive them or not, you get over it, but because you do right by people, you never want to let people down. And then I think the last thing, which I think is probably the thing I admire the most about you, is you're letting your daughter be a part of the journey. And I know that your content has changed over the years.
Yeah.
But like watching you be a dad, like my favorite video of all time is the New Year's video, which is like Chandler through the entire year and the whole thing. And the coolest thing that I was able to see at my event, Chandler, is you be on stage. Okay. You be on stage at the Supercoach Summit when you're speaking, and you get to bring Chandler on stage. It's the absolute coolest thing that I got to witness, and I was able to you'll be a part of that. I'm trying to do that with Thomas a little bit, and he's like getting into streaming, and I'm not a gamer, so like to me this is like really bad. And he's got this like, I remember there's this one streaming session where he forgot to start talking to people, and I'm upstairs, but I just hear like no voice, no talking. I'm like, hey, Thomas, and he runs upstairs. Yeah, what? I was like, dude. Like, hey man, I know you want to stream and stuff. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but like, I don't hear you talking at all. So if you're just going to sit there and play games, like this is not what you're going to do. So he's like, all right, cool. So we got to get it together. So in the video recording, he goes downstairs, he rushes downstairs, he sits down. He's like, all right, got to focus, chat, got to focus. All right, cool. Got to bring the energy up. And I hear it in the recording. It is like the coolest thing to like hear him kind of like, oh shit, he's getting the little like Coach Cav like messages and he's saying it. So it's like watching that kind of like throughput, and I'm like, oh my God, like I got to see it. And I'm like, that kind of like made me like almost like, oh shit, that got me emotional.
Yeah.
And it's like, I see what you mean now on the content side. So you have like your hobbies and interest, and then you have like another layer and then another layer, at least from a main kind of like content funnel. What's the next step?
You just got to let people find you for what you're good at. Like if you try to force it down people's throats, they don't want to hear it. They're getting that all day long by everybody on the internet. But there's the inbound marketing, which I, learned a lot from Jason Capital.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for meeting friends. You want to be the friend that you want to be introduced to, not the one that's going, hi, my name's this. You want to be introduced. So it's like the more webs you put out or like nets you put out to kind of reel people back to your profile, because if you get attention, views, they check out your profile.
Yeah.
They binge you. Me and Luis have been kind of working on like a binge type of content, like concept where it's like you just want people to be immersed in your content. And if it's too much of one thing, people get bored. But if it's a good mixture, they tend up liking you more as a person, not necessarily for what you sell. And if you, and that's not saying that they won't buy something from you, but they,
But that's what funnels and websites are for anyways. So like once you get that person through that traction, that's very valuable. I would say it's interesting because like what you're talking about, like on the introduction side is more valuable. So like number one is you look at kind of how you were introduced to some of your bigger clients. You talk about Jason Capital, right? Had a successful career, like doing basketball training online, obviously converted and pivoted and is Jason's an insanely good copywriter.
Yes.
Like unreal. Like his psychology of copywriting is like up there with some of the best and doesn't get the credit for it. But he's probably developed so many copywriters too.
Yeah.
But he's also it's immediate trust. Like if Jason introduces you to somebody else, Jason Capital introduces Ryan, it's like, oh, well, you immediately get to buy that relationship through you're borrowing the trust. And it's to say I saw that with a lot of the people that you connect with, right? Like you got, whether it be Modern Wisdom and a lot of the people that you work with, it's the same relationship play because it's the relationship trust that's passed through. One of them, like you talk about the Grant Cardone thing, and I remember this is like, the person that's on the other end saying like, hey, my friend Ryan, well, that happened because he was introduced, he was like, hey, I like your content, you're blowing up right now. I was like, all right, you don't believe in organic content. And I remember Alex Ramosi paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend time with Grant. And he says this publicly, guys. So he's on YouTube and he tells this story about him spending money to learn from Grant. And Grant saved him the headache of how to fast track and collapse time. That's what good mentors do. And he's like, so he goes to do that. And I'll never forget this statement that he says. He goes, Grant says, let me introduce you to my friend Ryan. And he introduces to his friend Ryan. And then Alex is literally on camera saying, how do I get my content organic? Organic's never worked for me. And how do I build my brand? And he goes, my friend Ryan asked me questions. So it's like this immediate trust. What you've done is scaled the unscalable, which is relationships. And I believe you do that by creating assets and you attach them to an audience through the association. And I think that that's how you kind of own the algorithms when everyone's like the algorithm's changing is beating you up. So fast track to today, you run Viral Edits as a company and this is an incredible studio. It's unbelievable. There's like 8,000 different places to shoot content, but you're really building these brands, these key person of influences, these personal brands to the point where if they are paying for ads and their money's going up, well, the minute they take their credit card out, boom, it tanks. But when you have their organic, it's like rising tide lifts all boats. And it's just that organic content that like holds that stability. It's hard to put a value on that, but every one of those over the end of the year, that's the best investment that they ever make. Have you seen people's businesses financially? Let's just talk about money and the finance part. Like what is the value of somebody building their brand organically, not just through paid?
Well, I mean, it's going to lower their ad costs immediately because the more organic you make, the better you are on your ads. So people are generally going to watch your ads for longer, which is going to lower your average advertising cost, your CPM. But also, if somebody sees an ad, the first thing they're going to do is click to see if there's a brand.
That's true.
And the more video somebody can watch, the more that the strength of that ad's going to be. And also, you're going to be able to find winning ads faster because if a video works organically, most likely it will work with paid behind it even better. It might just be lacking a CTA, which you can add on. So all the way around holistically, attention, quoting Grant, like the more attention you get, the more money you're going to make no matter what. And it, in most cases, good or bad, I don't see a difference either way. I prefer people do it the good way.
Yeah.
But like negative attention works to get attention, period. And I just think people need to focus on what happens after the ad because also retargeting is involved. The more people see you, the more familiar they get, the more relatable you are. You become a more holistic person. They know they're buying from somebody, not something, and it's not transactional.
And the more you're online, the more they're like, this guy's going to actually take care of me because he got a public persona, which is valuable.
Yep.
So what we do in our business now on the marketing side is the same thing I do in sports, which is basically we're gonna help you win. They get the business owner. And the way that we do that is we deal with people that they're losing clients to their competitors because they're not seen. So we have to get that attention. And we use a AAA framework. So attention, attraction, and accessibility. Now, what I think is fascinating, because I've watched you do this, and this is kind of where we are right now in our agency, right? Which is we help businesses that are in that we help them get from like that $2 to $10 million level. Like that's what we do. Like if you're a $2 million business, like local brick and mortar, personal brand, we help you kind of get to that 10 quick. Now, the one thing that I think that happens, the way that we work with them is we have two different types of people. Is we have the people that they've started their business, they built their brand to here. Like they said, they're super excited. They're going to build their logo, their design, their brand. They're going to professionalize their image. And then they build their business to here. And then they go, oh crap, like I've actually grown this. This is the first couple of years and they're taking off a little bit. And then they rebuild their brand again. And they start to establish their brand and their marketing or whatever. And then their business is here. And then their business catches up to their brand. And then what ends up happening is over time, their businesses surpass their brands. And now their brand is here, their business is here and their brand is here. And there's this gap. There's this brand to business gap. And what you are the best at, and what we do really well too, because of your models, like you've trained our staff, is we close that brand business gap by basically saying, hey, you're losing to the guy who you trained because their brand is here, but their business is down here, and your business is here, but your brand is down here. And this is what your business does, is your business collapses the brand business gap. So I want to acknowledge you for everything that you've done for me as a friend. I want to acknowledge you for everything that you've done for the absolute icons of our industry in the marketing and business space, because people don't realize that, you know, whether it be the Credit Brothers or all these people that have been on your stages, that you've been behind.
Yes.
All of the things that have lifted them up. You haven't never taken the credit, because you know what a cool friend does? A cool friend doesn't take the credit. So I got to give them a little bit of the credit. But whenever you're at an event, if you guys want to have fun, you come to Vegas with me. You're going to get Ryan at the party, and I'm going to be at the tables having a good time, because Ryan's going to go take everybody to all the clubs and parties. Because I ain't
Sometimes I'm getting older now. I don't do it.
You guys getting doing not that
much. Yeah.
You can still hang. All right. I can't, never have been able to. So you know what I'll do? I'll be at the tables, good steak dinner. Yeah. Call it a day. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.